5.2 million new homes in the next 5 years. Some scepticism surrounds that target because the current rate of completions is well short of what will be needed. But it's not just the houses themselves that are required. In densely populated outer metropolitan areas, schools, hospitals and other community infrastructure will be needed to keep up with residential expansion. These regions are represented by a group called the National Growth Areas Alliance. It's been in Canberra pushing for more funding for such facilities. So while here, we spoke to the Alliance's Chief Executive, Bronwyn Clark. Bronwyn Clark, good to have you with us. You represent what's called the growth areas of outer metropolitan city suburbs, and you've studied their infrastructure needs. These are areas that are home to 5 million or more Australians. What have you found these areas are lacking?
Well, we found that, you're right, 5.6 million Australians, 20% of our population, are lacking access to things like sports and recreational facilities, arts and cultural facilities, public transport, as well as health and education facilities. You've
researched access, as you say, particularly in relation to services more so than infrastructure. What is access to? What have you actually measured?
So we've measured a range of social infrastructure, and they feed up into a measure by the Australian Urban Observatory, which is around livability. So we're looking at things like, do people have a place to go and gather? Do people have safe footpaths? Can people get public transport frequently throughout the day? And all of this has an impact, and that's what we're really interested in is the impact on health and well-being, on people's earning potential, how far do they have to travel to get to work, and things like community cohesion that are so important, especially when you're bringing people together to live in a brand new suburb.
I mean, there's so much discussion about housing and the need to do more of it over the next 5 years. In your area of concentration, you've got 250,000 new dwellings being added over the next 5 years. Surely through state government planning processes and through local government processes, the sort of needs that you're talking about will be factored in, will be catered for, won't they?
Sadly not, and the experience of the past 20 years is the result. So, you know, those access gaps that we've just measured are proof that that doesn't happen. And part of the problem there is sequencing and collaboration between tiers of government. But also now that we're in a housing crisis, the focus on policies is around housing and infrastructure that will enable housing. So some utilities, some water, electricity. But then there's still no widespread talk about what people do when they get there. Right. We can build a house, but they need more than a house.
Now, pointedly, in making your pitch, it's not just the arguments that you're presenting here. You've also mapped these growth areas on the political pendulum as well, and you've got quite a number of marginal seats in these outer metropolitan belts. In your conversations, I suppose I was going to say lobbying here in Parliament, does that capture the attention of MPs?
To a degree, yes it does, and it always will, I suppose, but there are 39 federal electorates that cover growth areas in our 5 state capitals. 14 on paper at the moment are sitting as marginal, and there are a number of new seats because with population growth, electoral boundaries are redistributed. So we are looking at quite a number of seats where not only are they marginal already, but the population has grown so much and diversified so much in the past 3 years. Who knows what those voting preferences are?
I would tend to think that the current sitting MPs representing them would be well aware of the potency of these issues for them as the sitting MP. Is it in effect an invitation to pork barrel? Is that what you're asking for here?
No, and we're so pleased that, you know, at the moment it appears that very little of that is happening, and we've got our fingers crossed that we have moved past that stage of politicking and governing. But what we're saying is these people in outer growth areas pay their taxes like everyone else. They contribute to our economy, to our society, and so let's just not have a policy blind spot there. Let's actually make them more productive and help them build a better, stronger Australia.
Sure, and they vote too, Bronwyn Clark,
sure
so
do.
let's see what they do when they're next given the opportunity to cast a ballot. Thanks
Great.
so much.
Thank you.